This is the City of Waupaca's City Plan Commission meeting.
All right. Welcome to City Planning Night. This is a new time and date for this April meeting. We actually have a public hearing that we're doing first, so before we get into the City Planning Commission meeting, we are going to do the public hearing, which is for conditional use permit. And I know we've done a few of these recently, the public hearings, but basically that's to give the opportunity for the public to tell us whether they're in favor of this conditional use or whether they're against the conditional use permit. When we were doing these virtually, it was even more difficult to get people to comment or to come to these meetings, and so we'll see how this goes tonight now that we're back in person again. So we have a conditional use permit for Fableese LLC for 270 and 280 Grand Seasons Drive, and you do have a public notice that was posted. And I'm just going to really read the first paragraph. The rest of it is just some mumble jumble that tells us exactly where it is. But is that proper?
Yeah.
So here, you are hereby notified that Fableese LLC has made application to the City Planning Commission requesting a conditional use permit in accordance with Section 17.104, Parent 3 of the Municipal Code, permitted uses and conditional uses to allow sales, service, and repair. Category in heavy-duty vehicles, trucks, buses, coaches, tractor-trailer units, and the like, as a conditional use in the B4 Strip Commercial District. And then it just describes the property and says that we did post this and that we are having a public hearing tonight at 5:15, which is what it is. And it does say that if you wanted to attend this meeting, you could either attend in person or listen to it on FM 96.3, our local, or our city radio, and then also Win TV 991. All right, so at this time, we would take testimony in favor of this conditional use permit. If you'd like to make any comments in favor of that, please give your name and address and limit your time to 3 minutes or less. Aaron, I'm assuming we did not get anybody that wanted to
That
virtually.
assumption is correct. We did not hear anything.
Okay. All right. Anybody that would like to make comments in favor of?
Should the landowner?
If you'd like to, Scott,
Of course.
just give us your name and then let us know.
My name is Scott Fable. I'm the owner of Fableese. That's a limited liability company that owns property of mine, and I am interested in providing the community here with commercial truck vehicle sales on that property. I have the property that's across the street at 225 Grand Seasons Drive, which recently was annexed into the city, and I'm trying to acquire more business for that property through this property by accommodating more customers and a complementing business to mine across the street.
Great.
I feel it will be a very good addition to the community. I have a lot of intentions to making the lots look much more attractive and having a beautiful looking presence to the oncoming traffic as they come through Waupaca. So I'm very excited about it.
Great. We're excited for you too, Scott. That's been
Thank you.
vacant
Eyesore.
yeah, for quite a while. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else that would like to give testimony in favor of? Anybody that would like
Yes,
to?
Mr. Mayor, this is Alan Keelan,
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
701 South Main Street. I am in favor of granting this use permit.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Well noted. Any other testimony in favor of? All right, let's see if we have anybody that has testimony in opposition. Anybody that has testimony in opposition to this special, or this conditional use permit, sorry about that, conditional use permit. Jeff, do you want to save your comments till the regular meeting?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, let's declare this public hearing closed at 5:22 p.m. And let's go right into the regular City Planning Commission meeting. Give me a second. You're kind of a geeky kind of guy. I like these iPads sitting here, don't you? It's kind of cool. All right, this is the it's our regular April meeting, but we changed the date till Wednesday, March 31st, which is today, and it is 5:23 p.m. And you have an agenda in front of you. I'll call this meeting to order. In attendance, we have Commissioners Olson, I keep wanting to say Alliance, but Barron's, Mayor Brian Smith, Aaron Jensen is here as our staffer, and then we also have in attendance virtually we have Alan Keelan and Pat Fair, and then another staff we have Jeff Sanders. I don't know if Andrew Dane is on. Oh, and Tracy. I'm sorry, Tracy. And Tracy Barron.
Andrew is not.
And Andrew is not on. And Angela Lesage, of course, if you didn't hear that before. Thank you. All right, so we need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Fair.
Second, Barrett.
We'll let them do it virtually. So. We got a motion by Fair, second by Barron, that they approve the agenda.
I heard that.
Well, we want to keep you moving, Pat. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Motion carried. All right, so let's go to, we had some minutes from a public hearing that was on March 3rd, and then also the regular minutes on March 3rd. Anybody have any objections or any corrections to those, either one of those minutes?
Keelan, move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Olson to approve the minutes from our previous meeting, our public hearing, and our regular meeting on March 3rd, 2021. Any discussion there? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against, say no. Motion carried. All right, let's go to the action item then. This is the conditional use permit for Fableese LLC, which is 270 and 282 Grand Season Drive. And Jeff, this is where we're going to be looking for your guidance here, obviously.
As the mayor mentioned earlier, conditional use in the B4 district is sales, service, and repair of Category N heavy-duty vehicles, trucks, buses, coaches, tractor-trailer units, and the like. Fableese is requesting a conditional use permit for the properties in question on Grand Seasons Drive. And really what they're looking at right now is displaying trucks on the property, utilizing the existing structure as the sales office. As I understand it, Mr. Fable has an arrangement with a mechanic in the community to handle all repairs of trucks. You'll scroll to the last page, page 3, Aaron. My recommendations for approval of the conditional use permit are that full compliance with the pending site plan review and approval will be required throughout the duration of the use. That the delivery of vehicles for display and any movement of vehicles on the property be limited to Monday through Saturday, hours of 7 o'clock to 6 p.m. and on Sunday, 9 o'clock to 4 p.m. And then the last 3 that apply to all conditional use permits, any change in terms of the use of the property shall require an amendment to the CUP. The addition of any structures, the addition of any new uses may require an amendment to the CUP, and that would be determined by myself and by Aaron Jensen. And if amendment was required, it would come before the Plan Commission. And then finally, the CUP lasts as long as the use in question is maintained compliant with the zoning ordinance. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have unless the Plan Commission has any questions.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any commissioners that have questions on Jeff's recommendations and anything about the conditional use? Okay, thank you. Scott, Scott Fable, I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
You've read this and you've seen the recommendations and you're okay with those?
Yes, I don't see a problem with any of them at all.
Okay.
Mayor, the only thing I want to add to this, Mayor, is you guys will be seeing Mr. Fable again in mid-April. He's going to be coming forward with a site plan approval. So you guys at that point, plan commissioners will get to see that site, a depiction of it, and we'll talk about it at that point.
Okay. Great. Any other comments? Anybody want to make a motion here?
Brian, is this a motion to accept and then pass it along, or does this stay here?
This one goes to City Council.
I'll make a motion then that we accept the conditional use permit and send it along favorably to City Council.
Okay, we have a motion by Fair,
I'll second Barrett.
second by Barrett, that we recommend to council the approval of this conditional use permit for Fable's LLC for those properties on Grand Season. Any further discussion? All right, ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against, say no.
I believe I have a conflict of interest, Mr. Mayor, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay, and so we have motion carries with 1 abstention. Thank you. That was Alan Keelan. Woohoo! Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. It looks like we're going to see you again, so.
Yes, on the 14th, I may have a representative here because I may be out of town that day. Would you like to ask me anything, particularly now at all? I'll be on a vacation at that time. But I will have a representative from the Jack who did all the planning on this will be here at that time.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, if we do have any questions, we can get you when you get back. I'm sure
Aaron's worked with me and Jeff very closely on all of this.
Yeah.
And I have done an awful lot to comply to the site plan that they're looking for. So I'm hoping everything will be just fine.
Yeah, so do we.
No, Scott's been great to work with, and it should be noted too, Scott recently this is the gentleman who annexed into the city from Farmington recently and did a larger improvement to his property across the street. And it's a really nice project. Our building inspectors have a lot of good things to say about it. So we appreciate that, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah, so awesome. Thanks. We'll have a great vacation. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming, Scott.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Right. Underneath the next item on our agenda is just a discussion item. And if you remember back to our March 3rd meeting, we had the same discussion on this, and we didn't come to a conclusion on that. But in the meantime, we did get a petition from the property owner that requested that we put a lighting ordinance into effect in the city of Waupaca, and she got, I can't remember how many names that are on there, but multiple names, quite a few names that are on there, and you have it in your packet, everyone. I thought it would be, now, Planning Commission, you guys have heard this before, because we've talked about this, like I said, at the March 3rd meeting, and then we also talked about it back in the fall, too, and appreciate the frustration that the property owner is going through here. It's taken a long time for us to get it to any direction, you know, and she said it's 6 months, and it probably was 6 months since she made that request. And we haven't done anything about it. I think a lot of us have had the opportunity to drive by there at night and her house, and do notice that, at least in this situation, that light of our neighbors is obnoxious. You know, how many other situations we have in the community, I don't know. You know, we brought this up at a couple of meetings, and we haven't had too many more comments about it. I mean, I know Alderperson Paul Mayo had made comments that he also had a neighbor across the street that he felt was, the light was obnoxious or glaring, not necessarily into his house, but into the neighbor's house that was across the street. So I thought what we could do here is just, we haven't been sitting on our butts here and just ignoring it. So I thought maybe I could just have Aaron explain to you what he has done as we try to move towards some kind of solution for this. And, you know, it seems like it would be real easy just to put a ordinance or a resolution into place. But you also have to think of the, as I'll call it, the side effects of doing something like that too. So that's actually where we're sitting. And I think that's, in a way, I'm pretty sure that's about how we explained it to you at the March 3rd meeting too. So, I guess I'll just turn it over to Aaron, and Aaron, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Smith. I think Mayor set it up pretty well, and I would agree with him. I've also driven past that particular area, and I would agree it is a bright light. I think one thing that we had talked about in the past is kind of the whole concept of a public nuisance versus a private nuisance. And when we talked about this about a month ago, you know, because it's a one-off complaint, really it seemed like more of a private nuisance at that time. And we create a city ordinance that stretches over the entire city to address a problem that may be a single problem or maybe a far and few between type thing. Since that time, we did get the petition, and I give the homeowner credit for doing that. I haven't heard since that time specific instances and where this is a problem in other blocks or other areas of the city. I certainly welcome those, and those are the things that we want to hear, so we can determine if it is in fact a wider spread issue than we're aware of currently. You know, just to recap what we've done prior to this, we've talked with other municipalities on this and kind of gotten their take on if they have an ordinance or if they don't have an ordinance. If they do, how is it handled? It's not just as easy as one may think. And actually, as I got into it, it was more than I thought. You know, you have to have a way to measure it. You can't. It's not as easy as saying, hey, that light's clearly shining on that house. There has to be a lumen measurement, typically, is what it is. So you buy a piece of equipment, and then you go to the property, you take a measurement, you record it, and you determine if that's within the allowable light in that area or not. You have to think about who is going to do this, right? So it's either going to be in the wee hours of the morning or it's going to be after sun sets. And does that get handed over to our police department? Is there a separate type of seasonal person that comes in and does this at night when there's complaints? How does that get handled? Long story short, you know, with the equipment and with a possible extra staff time, or for sure required extra staff time, we would probably, if Plan Commission and eventually council determined that this was something that was in fact a public nuisance and something that we should address, I could put together a budget on what that would look like to inform people on what that means for our operations and for budgets if they're impacted. So, that's kind of where we are right now. It's in these situations where it may be more of a private than a public nuisance. Certainly, we want to do anything we can to help just resolve that one-off issue, and I think we have offered that. So I guess, Mayor, that's where we sit today. So I guess I'd be open for any questions or anything like that from Plan Commissioners.
Yeah, so that's where we're at, quite honestly. We need to get a feeling of where this commission wants to go with this, and whether you have any suggestions now that you've had an opportunity to think about it for a meeting or so, and also have seen the petition here. So, well, I'm just going to open it up right now and see if anybody wants to say anything about this at this time. Eric, go ahead.
Well, is it possible if we put something in an ordinance that says if we get a complaint that we could figure out kind of the way Aaron outlined it, that we figure out who would do the study or whatever needs to be done to check the lumen or whatever it is, that to see if we'd have to establish first what would be considered too much, right? And I guess my question is, are there other communities that have any of these things already in place that we can mimic?
There aren't a ton of them, but when we looked around, there are some communities that have it. Just to be very frank, when we've talked to all of those communities, every one of them said we would highly recommend not having a light ordinance. But if it is the decision to move forward with one, we certainly would use some of what has been created in other areas to kind of form ours.
Well, would this go away if we would just talk to the homeowner that's got the light? I mean, has anybody done that? And just see if we can make that thing go away, or see if we can get one that's on a motion sensor. You and I kind of talked about that, right? Because if it was on a motion sensor, she'd still have the protection of the light going off if there was something or somebody there.
Right.
But it wouldn't constantly be on all the time.
Right. We have offered to do that to the complainant, and I think at the time that was offered, it wasn't thought that would be effective at that time. So that's
From her standpoint.
from the complainant's standpoint.
Because I think she has said, well, at least to me she has, and I think we have all had, well, I know you have, Eric, have had some discussion with her, and Scott, who's in the audience with us too tonight, has had discussion with the complainant too, and she has tried that route. I mean, if city planning's direction is that we send, if we send somebody over there to the neighbor and ask them to try and rectify that and give them suggestions, that's probably a good starting point, quite honestly, because maybe it will be solved by that. But that's just one situation. But of course, that's the only situation that we've had a complaint about. So.
Right. Can I ask another question? I guess, I don't know how it works with grandfathering, but if we put an ordinance in, anybody that would be found in violation, it would automatically have to do something about it, right? This light that is the problem wouldn't be grandfathered in or anything crazy like that, right?
Yeah, Jeff, you have your hand up. I know he can speak to this well.
Eric, it depends upon how the ordinance is created. So if it's created under zoning regulations, nonconformities would apply. If it's created under police powers that exist in the village, in the city of Waupaca, it would take effect immediately for all lighting fixtures that are in violation. So that's the best explanation I can give you. If it were under zoning ordinance, there is nothing that the city of Waupaca could really do about any existing violations. We could only address them as development changes on the properties.
Now, so Jeff, we've talked about that in like a site plan type process that certainly would have a grandfather status, but in a public nuisance type part of the code, that would not have a grandfather, correct?
That's correct. So public nuisance ordinances and police power acts are effectively, the moment that ordinance goes into effect, it takes effect carte blanche across the entire city. It is a new law and everyone must comply with the new law. That's not the way zoning regulations work.
This is Pat. Can I just follow up a little bit on what Eric said? I don't understand how the purpose for excessive lighting, if it isn't for safety purposes, when we're talking about a private residence. And if it is for safety purposes, as Eric suggested, and I agree wholeheartedly, why is motion sensors, which are relatively inexpensive and are quite, good by today's standard, why is that not an acceptable form of lighting?
Well, you'd have to ask, I think you really have to ask the property owner that this complaint is about. Because again, we're only basing this on what we've heard from the person that made the complaint is that she has suggested that, and I think she's even proposed to pay for it. And this person still does not want to do that. Again, we don't know because we haven't physically went over there and talk to that person. And this is a private, like Aaron said, this is not a public situation. This is an issue between two property owners too, and how involved do we really get in it is an interesting question too. I mean, I think any one of us are willing to go over there and talk to her. I don't think that's the issue. So if that's the direction you would like us to go, I think, we would probably try that to begin with.
Well, if we could follow up on what Jeff said a moment ago, a little bit about if we sort of looked at this as and classified it as a quote unquote public nuisance, and then said, there's been a complaint leveled because the light is a nuisance to your neighbor or neighbors, maybe plural, and then ask the person to either obviously change it by focusing it different or use some kind of motion sensor, and the city would be more than willing to accept, say, a motion sensor or a redirection before anything further happened in terms of a nuisance. Or, and I guess the or is, or else you may face some kind of a public fine.
Well, and that's the easy part, quite honestly, Pat. It's the hard part is being able to put an ordinance in place that would hold up so that you could actually enforce that.
Right. So then, so I think that's the whole question, Pat. So is it a public nuisance or a private nuisance? And then, like you said, before you get to that fine, determining what amount of lumens is too much, how many properties in the city then are in violation as soon as we go over it. What's, our code compliance officer is also obviously a building inspector right now, and we've seen a uptick in that. When we put things into place, we want to make sure that we are enforcing them across the board, right? So there's a lot of these types of questions that kind of come into play here.
2 points.
Eric,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Aaron, I was just going to follow up. Aaron, you mentioned that there are a few ordinances out there from other communities, or you at least looked at some concepts that might cover this. Could you, maybe get us a copy or two of that just to look at how that would be worded?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
I mean, maybe that would give us a little more direction in terms of our thinking, because I don't know where else to go with this other than what you've said already. If we don't have some kind of a language to look at that might cover the issue.
Alan, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, two things. First of all, I think if it affects more than one neighbor, it becomes a public nuisance. And secondly, I would liken this to noise ordinances. Trucks idling all night long, things like that. We do have ordinances against that.
Okay. Justin, take a comment here.
I would be in support of adopting an ordinance for it. The difficult part is how you're going to define a nuisance in this case, because if you make it very strict so that you could go to any property and be like, you got to take that off, then you need to apply that, and it's going to be very cumbersome. Maybe cumbersome is not the word, but it's going to be very difficult to manage. So that, to me, is going to be the most important piece, is defining what is and what isn't a nuisance. So if something's brought to the floor and it, if it's whether way too strict or just a wet paper bag, it's not going to help us.
I could just see Justin's brain ticking right now. Hey, you can get rid of some more streetlights if we put an ordinance in. Sorry, I didn't.
This is on the other side of the line here.
Oh, in fact, on South Washington Street, it is a bit dark there in 400 block. So.
Sorry.
Open the door. Open the door.
Well, no, there are certain lighting standards throughout the country for office buildings, for corridors, for street lighting, and so on. And I think a starting point might be that if it exceeds the value of a street light on the street, then it is, it's over the limit.
Yeah. Go ahead, Angela.
I guess I'm not really sure what we're looking for at this meeting right now, but what I'm personally hearing is I feel it's a private nuisance. Since we only have one case, I think perhaps we should start with one of us going over to speak to the property owner. I'll volunteer if no one else is interested in doing that. I think that would be a good place to start, personally, instead of putting a lot of money into buying something to measure lumens, and that's just my 2 cents.
I think that's the best answer for tonight's meeting. I really do. And Aaron, we'll leave it up to you to decide whether you want Angela to go or you want to go. So, or you want to go together.
What? I'm not scared.
I was all ready to do it until I heard that the homeowner, well, I spoke to her. She said she didn't want us to do that. So I think because she didn't want to start a feud maybe with her neighbor, but maybe we talk to the person that has the complaint and see if she's okay with us approaching.
Well, she's making the complaint, and now she has a petition in place, and now I don't think we have any choice. And I agree. That's why we've held back, is that she's felt that there might be some retribution that she didn't want to deal with. But now she's made it a public issue, so I don't think we have any choice but to go in that direction.
Yeah, then let's try it and go from there.
I thought somebody has talked to her.
Not from the city that I know of.
Okay.
Maybe an officer has, but I thought we asked the chief.
Yeah, I don't know of an officer speaking with him. I think that is a good point, though. Whenever it's like really like rises to the level of harassment, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, it can always be a criminal complaint. I'm not going to be the judgment on what that is. I would doubt that that's this scenario, but that's another level of protection, I guess, for a homeowner in this situation.
So let's do this. Let's put it on the next agenda, which I think is what, the 14th? Is that?
Yep.
April 14th. And in the meantime, we'll have one city staff and I don't know that you need to take a police officer with you, but if you feel comfortable if you feel uncomfortable, maybe you should. But let's have somebody from city staff or a member of this commission talk to the individual and see if we can't come to some kind of agreement here.
Good idea.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on then. All right.
More streetlights coming down.
Okay, so I think we're on the code enforcement and all the reports, right?
Yep, let's go down to the reports, the internal site plan review reports and our March 21st building permits, code enforcement, and development update. Aaron?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I will hand it over to Jeff. Let me just set this up really quick. The internal site plan review reports is a result of Plan Commission basically saying that these newer site plan reviews that are less than what has typically come to Plan Commission in the past, you gave authority to staff to do these internal reviews, but you also asked that we give a little report each month on what projects those are, just to make sure that you guys are in fact in agreement that those should be done internally. So Jeff, I know you've had a few this last month. Do you want to speak to those?
Sure thing, Aaron. So we've had 4 of them thus far, and I'll just give you the address as a brief description and then entertain any questions that the commission may have. The first one is at 205 West Fulton Street. This is a city-owned piece of property. It is the kiosk that's proposed, the visitor's kiosk, by Waupaca Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's the property that houses the police department storage structure, for those of you who are far more familiar with the community than I. It's a relatively small structure. It was located elsewhere in the city and for reasons I don't recall was moved. This is kind of the quintessential example of a new structure in a business district that would typically require, under the current ordinance and under the previous ordinance, Plan Commission review. But it's kind of ideally suited towards this, or to this staff review thing, not burdening the Plan Commission with something so simple. Would you like me to go through the 4 of them, or just one at a time and address any questions that arise?
I think Plan Commissioners, feel free to cut Jeff off with any questions. Otherwise, Jeff, go ahead and run
Jeff,
through.
where are you with here I am letting you run with it, and then I'm going to ask you a question. But
yes, sir.
Where are you with that request?
All 4 of the site plans we'll be discussing now, including the one for the visitors kiosk, have been approved.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome. Number 2 on the list is 414 West Union Street. This is an issue that Justin could probably speak to in greater detail than I, but it's it's an R3 property, a multifamily residential property that abuts another multifamily property. There was a retaining wall that was in a state of disrepair, and due to, I believe, some flooding, it began to collapse, or it did collapse. The property owners came forward with a proposal to replace the entire wall. Again, because it's a fence or a structure within a non-residential district. And as you may recall, the R1 and R2 district are considered residential districts. Multifamily residential is actually considered a commercial use. So a simple wall replacement, reviewed it and approved it. Again, another one of those things that probably doesn't raise to the level warranting Plan Commission review. Any questions regarding that one?
Oh, go ahead.
Number 3 on the list, and this is the one that probably gets closer to the line, if you will. This is the MyTech property at 1977 Royalton Street. MyTech proposed the addition of a new structure. It's about 650 square feet in size, so it's not a little thing like the kiosk. It's called a pallet shed, presumably to store pallets in. No other development there's no other additional development on the property. Went through the review on the 25th of March and approved it. And finally, one I approved today, this is 220 South Main Street, and this is the Salt and Belly restaurant. Salt and Belly proposes a patio, kind of an outdoor dining area in the back of their structure. Those of you more familiar may recall this is a very, very narrow property, and the Salt and Belly structure itself is not very deep. So the back half, and this would be the west half of the lot, is open to the sky, but surrounded by abutting properties on the north and south. They actually have a very nicely designed patio plan. There's an elevated dining area, fencing, a gate. It is approved by a zoning administrator today and on to the building inspectors. And then finally, there is one pending, and I'm bringing my phone right now because I made a note on it. Oh yeah, that would be Waupaca Country Club is proposing an addition to their existing country club. It's a large deck. Again, commercial use, site plan review, something that would historically go before the Plan Commission. We're proposing that it stay at staff level because it's still just a deck, although I'm sure it'll be a very nice deck. That application has not been submitted yet. I had a conversation with a representative from the contractor today, and they're in the process of compiling and submitting that application. And that will also go before building inspectors for a building permit.
All right. Anybody have any questions on those 5? All right, Aaron, you want to?
Yeah, I'll just quickly go through. No really noteworthy news for the first couple reports. The economic development report, I just want to hit on a couple of things. And one, I might want to share some slides at a future meeting with Plan Commission. There might just be some interest in it. Andrew Dane, our economic development specialist, worked with Mike Stump from Place Dynamics, who actually they collect cell phone data. And Mayor Smith sat in on this meeting as well. And they took an area of the downtown and they looked at foot traffic. What this cell phone data does is it can tell, people have a pretty one-on-one relationship with their cell phone, right? So it's pretty powerful data. Where the cell phone is located during the night hours is where it determines its home is. Where it is during the 9 to 5 hours is where it determines the person works. So it can basically tell where are these visitors coming from and how long are they spending in our downtown area. And it took a snapshot of 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020. And the thing I will just share that is kind of noteworthy and maybe of interest to plan commissioners is there was a very clear foot traffic pattern. In 2018, 2019, you could see the large spikes during Strawberry Fest, 4th of July parade, all of those things. And then you could obviously see a gigantic dip when COVID hit, and specifically the Safer at Home order. That has worked up, and it got back to 60, I'd say 65% of what its normal rate was. Maybe sooner than you'd anticipate. I would say maybe late summer, but then it's leveled off since then. So really hovering around that 65, 70% as that certain segment of the population is just not ready to come back and get back to their normal habits yet. But that's something I would like to actually show you. I think maybe would be interested in the graphs and data in the future. Another thing is we'll be talking about it, and I know I've talked to the individual that's doing this project, and he's happy to share it, and there's stuff out on Facebook page, and he's looking for help already. But we will be talking about one of our large vacant retail spaces at April 14th meeting, and that business is going to look to fill some of those gaps that left with Shopko and Kmart. So we'll be going through a site plan review, not site plan review, conditional use permit for that property. So that will come before Plan Commission on the 14th, and then ideally get passed through council on the 20th, and then that he'll be ready to open maybe in May. And then lastly, Mayor Smith, myself, and Andrew Dane and actually Justin for some of it, sat in on some, we listened to some firms who gave proposals for the business park. As we've gone through the comp plan, we've talked about how that business park south of Royalton Street is morphed into not heavy industrial, but more of a, I wouldn't even call it light industrial, more of a, gymnastics, the daycare, Fox Valley Tech, more of a commercial type corridor. And we've talked about the need for putting roofs in our communities, extra rooftops, and we had talked about a neighborhood type vision for that with these consultants, which was supported by council about a month ago. So we look forward to selecting one and working with one and bringing those concepts and visions to Plan Commission and sharing those sometime soon too. And I don't know, Mayor, do you have anything to share about that or?
No, excited though, because they were excited about the opportunity out there. We learned a few things from them too, which is kind of cool. We learned that for free. The next part's probably not free, but so yeah, I think it's real exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the things, we were probably happy to hear them say that those assets that we thought were out, that helped us out there, like the river corridor, the existing trail connections and those proximity to Highway 10, they saw those as great assets too. So we'll look forward to exploring that more and bringing it in front of you eventually. Last piece, and the housing kind of continues. Actually, I was just talking to our building inspector today, or one of them, and on her floor right now, she has 7 new home permits laid out ready to issue. So that continues to kind of boom a little bit here for this area. So hopefully that can keep up throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, there's nothing about driving around town and seeing building going on. I mean, it really is exciting actually to see that. So, especially since we went probably a good 10 years without anything going on. So it is cool.
Are those septic connected to Green Tree?
I think the majority of those are. I don't think all 7 of them are. I believe there's a couple also in the Foxfire subdivision, or maybe one at least.
Aaron, this is Pat. Is there any new developments from our grant writer?
Yes, thank you, Pat. It will be coming to council soon to formally accept it, but we were notified about a week ago that the city has received funding for the CDBG CV, which stands for coronavirus. Look at all those acronyms. Good luck keeping up. And that is for housing assistance and utility assistance. Again, that was working with CAP Services. CAP Services would administer the program. It's for the amount of little over $1.1 million. And that will serve the entire CAP Services region. Again, a municipality had to apply for it. So that's what we did. And again, it really, for us to have a chance at it, we had to serve a larger region than just the city of Waupaca. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had a shot at it. So that's exciting news. That's probably that is probably the most exciting news from a city standpoint, Pat. I will also say that we heard some encouraging news on the CDIG, so CDIG grant, which is for a renovation project on North Main, the CDA. That was the first project that the CDA awarded money to. And we applied for, I believe it was $120,000 to help bolster that project and make it even a nicer project. And we received some encouraging news that it's basically being looked on favorably. We hope to, knock on wood, we hope to hear that we got that in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Okay, anything else for go to the meeting tonight?
Yeah, I got something there.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I was just wondering on the report, it has the nuisances. I'm just wondering what kind of shenanigans are going on out at the Foxfire Court.
Oh, not this again, you guys.
25 different nuisances on 25 different addresses?
Well, the mayor lives out there.
Oh, I wasn't going to bring that up.
So that is because there's a lot of condo lots actually out there, condo unit lots. that they've just kind of been neglected over time. A lot of those are snow nuisances, and it's an annual thing where we have to go out and shovel those and then charge it back. I can tell you that actually those are in the foreclosure process right now through the county. And it might come to council in the next few months to talk about the future of those lots.
I think you could buy the mayor a new snow shovel.
I think you could look at it differently. You know, there's a lot of building going on out there. Maybe they know they don't have to shovel their sidewalk, so they're building out there. Sorry. No, that's not the case.
Don't take a clip of that.
Yeah, no, maybe we could define nuisance a little bit more detailed in the future.
In the reports.
In the reports. That would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've brought that up. It's come up at this before.
The same thing,
Yeah.
defining it. Okay.
A little more detail would be nice.
So we're obviously talking to the wrong person.
I believe what the problem was the software.
I don't either.
You know, the software comes as a package, and not that we can edit it, but you know, when they go in there and they type in their code, it just pops up, and they generate these reports, and it comes up nuisance.
Yeah,
It would be nice if it said something like nuisance dash grass, nuisance dash whatever, vacant vehicle.
Late summer, early fall too. That reporting will be different because we'll have that new software. So
Okay.
It might just automatically come with that. We'll ask those questions.
Okay. Anybody else for the good of the meeting? Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Olson,
Second, Keel.
second by Keelan, that we adjourn till our next meeting, which is called on April 14th, 2021 at 5:15.
Mayor, is the special meeting on the 14th same time frame?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
5:15, yep. All right, ready to adjourn? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thanks, everybody, for attending.